talk about seeking arrangements and whether or not these sugar sites are good options for dating sites. We'll just kind of get along with that for a minute. So anyway, let's look at the dynamics of seeking arrangements here and what's going on so I can help break this down for you a little bit. I actually recommend, if you're on dating apps, dating women, and your goal is to, we'll say, spin plates, just have good experiences with women, build your seduction powers up, have a few girls you're dating and sleeping with, and that's sort of your goal, right? You're not necessarily in LTR mode right now. I would say that this is not a bad idea, okay? Especially with guys who are a little bit older who want to date the younger women. Now, I'm not saying pay for these women and pay for sex either, okay? Let's look at it realistically. A lot of these guys who don't have game and stuff and or whatever, what happens when they're in their mid 30s or late 30s or even older than that? They find some young girl sometimes, right? And what are they doing? They're paying for all of her stuff and then maybe even wifing her up or putting a baby in her. And then, of course, they're paying for her alimony and child support later, right? So this is what happens. Okay. Guys are paying for it one way or the other when they don't have game. And when the chick doesn't genuinely desire you for you as a man and doesn't desire you and see you as that alpha that she wants to sleep with, then it turns into a transactional relationship. I don't care if you met on a sugar baby dating site like Seeking Arrangements, or if you met at the club, or if you met in the library. Okay, if she sees you as a transactional option, it's going to use you for your resources to achieve her goals and put you in a more or less a system of slavery for sex, right? And discard you later and take your resources, you're getting a worse deal than a guy paying for a girl for an evening. That's for sure. And I still don't advocate paying for a girl for an evening as a means of getting as a primary means of getting, let's say, with sexual experiences and stuff with women either. Because here's the other side of it too. You're not really, let's talk about, first of all, because I'm trying to figure which direction do I want to go. So first, let's talk about the idea of paying for women as a means of getting your sexual needs met. This is something I don't recommend. Okay. Again, I'm not shaming a guy on a one-off. All right. I don't care about that. But if a guy is basically paying for a girl to be his girlfriend, like a sugar baby situation, or if a guy is paying for hookers or paying for women off of websites a couple times a month or whatever, just to get that's his sexual needs, I would say no. Okay, I would say that's a bad idea. And here's why it's a bad idea. You're not experiencing genuine desire from that girl. And that is ultimately what men want. Now, you may think to yourself, well, really, I just want to get laid. When you're in a scarcity mindset and you have scarcity with women, yes, you just want to get laid by pretty girls. You want pretty girls to touch your pee-pee. I get it. But once you pass that phase and you can get girls and have women to touch your pee-pee, then it becomes something more than that. And one thing that guys really want is genuine desire. And part of the reason why you can go down there's other reasons too. So this isn't the only reason, but part of the reason why guys can go down a rabbit hole of addiction with pornography is because they're getting the reward of sex without the genuine desire. And so they are ultimately not satisfied. Okay. And so they end up seeking more and more of that reward of sex from that source, in that case being pornography. And then the pornography gets weirder and weirder with what they're watching, and it gets longer and longer time spent online doing that. And that becomes the focus then of getting their reproductive needs met. Okay. Reproductive needs are instinctual. It's something that every man has an instinctual need. And so when that becomes the route for it, ends up replacing any kind of healthy relationship that you would have with women. And that's a problem, right? That's why porn addiction is a problem. Um, I would say too, paying for women like sugar baby things or seeking arrangements or whatever is a bad idea for that reason too. Again, I'm not judging a guy on a one off, okay, or at a party or at some situation. But if that's the primary means that he is executing to get his reproductive needs met, then he is going down the wrong path because ultimately what he wants is genuine desire. It's like the guy who shows up at the strip club and then he ends up habitually showing up there. And then some girl gives him a lap dance and gives him some attention and he pays her a bunch of money. And then he thinks and feels like this girl really likes him. And then she's like, oh, when am I going to see you again? Blah, blah. And she runs her stripper game on him. Because remember, I used to run strippers. So I know the game that strippers run on their marks. All right. I was the guy that was having sex with them. And then they were the girls that were running these guys they weren't having sex with and just taking their money. And they make these dudes feel like they're desired. They give them the gift of the feeling of genuine desire without actually desiring them in exchange for money. And then that becomes a replacement for that guy, okay, instead of seeking out regular relationships with women. So it's like that. Using and paying for girls for sex is basically that game, except for now you're taking a step further. You're spending more money usually, and you're getting sex out of it. So at least, okay, you're getting sex out of it, but who cares, right? You're still simping for a girl, right? And it's not a healthy relationship or exchange, and she doesn't really genuinely desire you. So I do not recommend paying for sex, paying for sugar baby, and all that stuff. That's not what I recommend because you're basically getting into a transactional relationship, and maybe it's safer than marrying some girl who sees you transactionally and then she takes you for all your money, right? But you're basically feeding your reproductive needs that way, which then can turn into kind of an addiction. So yeah, dude. So I don't recommend that. I recommend learning game and taking girls on real dates. Okay. Where you're not paying for them for an exchange of sex. They genuinely desire you. Now, let's talk about seeking arrangements as a means to do what I just said, which is getting girls that genuinely desire you, okay, but from that site. And then let's talk about why that might be, we'll say, another iron you might want to consider having in the fire, okay? So, guys are on, if you're on dating apps, now I was more of a pickup person, but I did do some dating apps for a bit, mostly just to kind of understand and learn how dating apps worked. And now I do a lot of consultants with guys. Guys can, come to me on a weekly basis and I help them tighten up their game as far as dating apps are concerned. So I'm helping them get their profiles up and execute game and get girls and to go on dates with them, get girls to want to have sex with them, and ultimately sometimes have relationships if that's what they're looking for. So you're on dating apps, right? You got your profiles and you're looking on. When you're running dating apps as a means of getting girls, I recommend that you do more than just one app. So commonly people do Tinder or whatever, right? But I recommend that you do a search in your area because understand I'm working with people all over the world actually. What I found is that certain apps are more popular in certain areas than others. And I couldn't really give you a Rolodex of what's popular and what isn't in whatever area. I couldn't because it changes all the time too. But what I recommend is if you're new to an area, especially, talk to the hot bartender or talk to, of course, now I'm assuming you have some day game ability, but strike a conversation with a hot bartender, waitress, somebody like that who's kind of like going to talk to you whatever. And just not because you're trying to pick her up, but just say, hey, you know what? You seem like a cute chick and you have some cute friends, I'm sure. I'm new to the area. I'm single. I want to start dating. What are the dating apps that you or your friends use? Like what's popular around here? Just ask that chick. You might find yourself closing on that chick too if you know what you're doing. Maybe that's a good idea. But find out, ask a couple chicks right in the area, what are the dating apps that are good? And you'll get some different answers. And then you can do an internet search too, like what dating apps are popular in my area, that sort of thing. Some websites will rank them and all that. And then you can decide what apps you'll use. And so maybe you're using Tinder or Hinge or whatever, maybe even Bumble, okay, which is a little lame. But know kind of your audience, know which apps are being used by your, we'll say, target market, the age and range and type of girl that you're looking for, right? And so you're going to do that. Now, amongst those, there might seeking arrangements is the most popular one, but there's other ones too. Not super familiar on all of that stuff, but guys, again, they do the search, they figure it out. But then there's these sugar sites, we call them, right? I recommend adding a sugar site into the mix. All right. Now, here's why I recommend doing that. Now, understand, first of all, if you're going to get a girl off one of these sites and go on a regular date with her, not pay for sex, seduce her, and have her be a chick that you're dating now, your game level needs to be on expert. You cannot suck at game and do this. You will get eaten alive by these girls. All right. You'll find guys who are just like inclined to simp for a chick will fall around for these girls, just like the guy who goes to this back in the day who would go to the strip club and next thing he knows, he's in love with a stripper. All right. That dude who is not good with game, doesn't understand women, is starving and thirsty for some attention and has a tendency to simp. That guy's a mark, right? And strippers know it. And next thing you know, he goes in the strip club thinking he's just gonna have a couple drinks and see some hot girls and he's gonna chill. And next thing you know, he's hundreds of dollars short walking out of there because he was just spending it on this girl's attention, buying her a drink, and then I guess I'll do a dance, and I guess I'll do another one, and she's talking to me, and these guys get sucked into this, right? And so girls off seeking, you pick the wrong girl to meet up with. She sucks you into a situation. Next thing you know, you're paying for it. Okay. That if you're inclined to do that, your game's not very good yet or developed, I recommend do not get on a seeking site because you probably will find yourself getting just chewed up and eaten alive. Or at the worst, you'll just sort of not get the results, right, that you're wanting. Let's face it. If you're a man, then you are probably dealing with problems and challenges with women. Now, I've got some good news and some bad news for you. Your success with women literally boils down to one thing. When you have this one thing, all of your troubles disappear and you start having amazing experiences that most men can only dream of. And that's the good news. But the bad news is, if you don't have it, nothing else will work. All of the money, good looks, advice on the internet, and all of the best pickup and game skills out there will fail without you mastering this one thing. And that one thing is frame. And the good news is I can teach you all you need to know about it. The answers to ending your pain and suffering and to start living an amazing life with women is just one click away. After this video, click on the link in the description to schedule a free consult to see if you are a good fit. Click the link and let's get started. All right, but when your game gets a little bit developed, here's the thing about these sites, and this is especially true if there's an age gap. So let's say you're a 32 or 42 or 49 or whatever year old person, right? You're interested in dating girls in their 20s. This is kind of a good way of doing it because here's about what I've noticed. So these girls who go on these sites, about half or more, so let's say 50 to 60% are straight prostitutes. Like they're looking to get paid And that's why they're there, and they run it almost like a business, and they know they're the strippers of the group, right? They know how to run game on these dudes, and they're going to take your money. All right. So we got that going on. Now, let's talk about the other 40%, though, 40 to 50, the other smaller percentage. So girls nowadays have this fantasy. Think Christian Grey for a minute, right? 50 Shades. That's this fantasy that these girls have. Okay. And so that's the fantasy they have. And people are like, what does a girl want? Listen, a girl wants everything, and she's going to take anything and everything she can get. Now, if you offer her an allowance or offer her money for her company or her time, she will immediately, in her brain, slide you over to the beta provider category. And any sexual interaction you have with her is going to be transactional, where she's making you feel desire, but she really doesn't have that desire for you. And as soon as those resources stop, she's on to the next, right? And so the key is you never give your resources up like that. You never offer straight cash or favors or to pay a bill or any of that stuff for her time or her company. All right, so that's the first rule of this. That's nothing that you do, okay? But these girls are on there. Think of the average 21-year-old girl, all right? So your average 21-year-old girl, her social circles of peers nowadays are these beta weak-ass 21-year-old boys, all right? And so she goes to parties, messes around with these guys every now and then, but they're boys. All right, they're immature, they're weak, they don't know how to lead, they don't know how to bang, that's for sure. They don't have it together, right? That's most of these young guys. And so what are they doing? So they're like interested in older dudes. All of these girls have an interest in older dudes, really, because they want that experience. They want to be with a guy that's dominant alpha and that can provide experiences for her. And she wants to have these experiences. That's part of her nature. All right. Now, is she going to go with the ugly 60-year-old man? Well, probably not, unless she's just getting some bills paid. All right. So you have to have your SMV together. You have to be attractive. Okay. You have to know what you're doing. But if you're that attractive guy where she would be kind of looking at you regardless of, where it was, if you were at a bar or something, even though you're a bit of an older guy compared to her peer group, she might look at you and think you're attractive. She's a good person for you to meet then on these sites. And so what happens is you're not going to pay for sex, but what you are is you're providing the alpha experience, the experienced older guy that can take her out, just taking her out to a nice, now you're not going to a nice restaurant on the first date. We know that, right? Like, we're not an amateur hour. You guys know to meet for coffee or a drink at a bar first. You know that, right? Okay. So we'll get that out of the way. But from that point in vetting her, you have a capability, let's say as a 35-year-old guy, to take this girl who's 21, 22 into experiences that the average guy in her age category doesn't have the ability to do. And she wants that experience. You know what I mean? And so you're not necessarily paying her for sex, but you might pay for the dates. But guess what? If you're dating a girl, you're probably doing that anyway, a fair amount of time, right? If you're a 35-year-old and you're taking a hot 21-year-old out, she just probably doesn't have the damn resources anyways, unless she has an OnlyFans or something, right? And so you're probably paying for where you might go, but you're not necessarily giving her money in exchange for sex. And then you're seducing her just like a normal situation. For her, the buy-in and the reason for her doing it is because you're this alpha dominant guy with resources and she finds that attractive. Success is attractive, all right? And so she sees you as attractive and she wants to have a good time with an attractive older guy that has his crap together. All right. And even if you're a younger guy, same age, if you have your crap together and you can provide good experiences, I say provide them. I mean, you're just going to go do cool crap. If you met her on Tinder, it's the same shit you would do if you met her on a different app. Do you know what I mean? The only difference is that the framework changes. Okay. So I've had several clients, I've had this happen before where they meet a girl on, they match the girl on Tinder or one of the other apps, and they also see her on Seeking. So this happens all the time. They see the same girl on both apps. And then when they match with her on Seeking, she sees him as higher value. Or she matches or opens him on Tinder and then says, "Hey, I saw you on Seeking." See, when you're on the Seeking arrangement site, what happens is if you're an attractive guy, is they see you as the prize. When they're on Tinder, they see themselves as the prize, and they're just really on there usually for attention. The average hot 21, 22-year-old isn't going on too many dates with guys and hooking up with too many guys they meet on Tinder. I mean, they do, you know, I'm not saying they don't, but most of those guys are guys that they're just swiping next. They're listening, you know, they might engage a guy in a conversation and they ghost that guy, you know, because they just want the attention. Remember, attention is currency for a woman. So she wants to boost her self-esteem. She wants to get attention from a bunch of dudes. She logs into Tinder, let's say, and just has a bunch of useless conversations with guys, wastes their time, and then she goes out with the guys she met on Seeking Arrangements. And maybe she goes out on a guy she met on Seeking Arrangements who's 50 years old, who she's not going to sleep with, but she'll be his arm candy. All right. And then what happens the next day? She goes out with another guy on Seeking Arrangements who's a good looking dude, has good game, knows how to seduce. She ends up sleeping with that dude and she ends up coming back for more. And it ends up being a normal situation. It's called salt dating. Okay. So if you haven't heard of this, this is called salt dating. It's been around as an idea for a long time. I recommend if guys who are out there just in the dating market and you're looking to do what's called spinning plates, that you do some of this because you'll learn a lot by doing it. You'll learn about seduction. You'll learn about the framework of how a woman thinks, and especially how these younger girls think nowadays. All right. Because it's a little bit different than maybe 30 years ago. Not that you would know that, whoever you are listening to me, but you know what I mean. And so this will just kind of get you dialed into understanding women a little bit. And you might have some good times, good experiences. I mean, if you have some hot 21-year-old, you're going on vacation anyway. You're a single guy, you're going to go on vacation, and you decide to bring some hot 22-year-old or 23-year-old or whatever on vacation with you. She's a 10, and you're not paying for sex, but you know, you pay for the plane ticket. You go on vacation with her. She actually thinks you're hot and likes you. She has a bunch of sex with you. You guys have a good time. And then, excuse me. And then you go about your lives. You know what I mean? Maybe she sees you some more. Maybe she doesn't. She was just somebody you were seeing. What would be the difference if you met her at the bar or if you met her on the street? I personally would rather meet her at the bar or the street, which is why I favored regular in-person game, day and night game. That's what I did. But that requires skill, and that requires more skill than some of you guys have. I recommend you get the skill, all right, and come see me and we can get you dialed in. But in absence of that and in absence of time, getting on a site, what's the difference? You know, as long as you're not paying her for sex and you guys are having a good time, it's the same situation, right? But the thing is, though, you're going to find that if you know how to quickly next the straight prostitutes on these sites, which I train guys how to do that, all right, to recognize when they're just going to try to get your money and then next them, you'll go through a bunch of those, but you'll have some girls who are inexperienced and they're just sort of curious. They're not even like sure about, they haven't even looked at this as prostitution, a lot of them. They don't even think of it like that. They're just curious. And they're just kind of like, well, I want to have sex with a guy anyway. And why not pick a guy who has, some things going for him and that's actually experienced? My last boyfriend was a douchebag and he was my age and he played video games all day, and he's not doing anything with his life and the sex is terrible. Why not go for a guy who's a little bit more experienced and who can actually, provide like better experiences with me? That's what a lot of these girls are thinking. And they get on there. Okay. But they're running different game. I mean, they're on that site and they're on Tinder. But a lot of times they're just on Tinder for attention. And then they're going out with dudes and seeking. And some of the guys that they can get money from, sure, they'll take some money from that guy. But they're not usually sleeping with that guy as very often. It's very transactional. The least the amount that they can do for the guy that's paying for them, the better. But they go out with you and they think you're attractive and you're just running it like a regular date pretty much, except, hey, I'm an attractive dude who's got a lot of things going for him and I have good experience and I'm more experienced than you or your peers. And that's why you're here. She's actually in a state of desire and she ends up dating you like a regular chick. All right. Now, I am not saying wife these girls up. I am not saying give your commitment away or put a baby in her. That is not what I'm saying at all. So be very clear on that. If she is on a site like that, that is a red flag and a major red flag. So don't be on there and then get this girl and be seeing this girl and then think, I love her. I'm going to marry her. Like after banging her a few times because she's young and hot and smells nice, right? And you've been with her for 3 weeks and now you're ready to cash it all in. Don't do that, right? Please don't do that. And don't think I'm saying that. So people have a hard time with this topic, stepping outside of their box and their paradigm. So you have to really listen to what I'm saying here. All right. I'm not saying that I condone paying for hookers. I'm not saying to wife a girl up off of a hooker site. All right. What I am saying, though, is that if you're interested in dating and spinning plates and you're not interested in a relationship at this time, this can be a good option for you to have a little bit of fun and to learn seduction skills and to learn things about women. It can be a good option. So that's pretty much it. Are they good or are they bad? It's kind of like a lot of things, isn't it? It's kind of how you use it, how you handle it is what determines whether it's good or bad or not. If you are on this site and paying for hookers and fooling yourself into thinking you're in real relationships and so on and so forth, and not improving your skills at all, then it's probably bad for you. Okay. If you're using these sites to get hot girls to hang out with you in exchange for money, and then you're saying or pretending that you're really good with women and that you've picked these girls up and buy my course on how to date and pick up women, even though I paid for these girls to be here or whatever, here's my receipts, then I would say it's bad for you. And you're probably fooling yourself and you're fooling a lot of people who are wasting money on that product. All right. Because that's not real game. But if you know how to handle the site, you know how to handle women, okay, then this can be an option for you.